This question comes from my Bible Made Simple newsletter. It was asked, is cussing always sinful? Is cussing always sinful? Now here's the deal. I always want to be careful to call something sinful or to say something is always sinful if the Bible doesn't explicitly use that language or state it itself. And when it comes to cussing, one of the challenges is cussing or cursing, it is relative to the culture that you are in. So our culture in which you and I live kind of determines, hey, what words are in bounds and what words are out of bounds. And so while the scripture never explicitly says always in every situation, anytime you use a word that might be considered a cuss word as sinful, I do think scripture has some wisdom for us. So for example, in Colossians chapter 3, verse 8, it says put away, and it gives a list of things that we're to put away, but then it also includes filthy language from your mouth. So it seems to be wise to avoid filthy language. Now it doesn't say what filthy language is, and that's a little bit determinative on the culture and context, but it does say that. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 29 says no foul language should come from your mouth. Or even a few verses later in Ephesians 5, verse 4, it says, obscene, foolish talking or crude joking are not suitable. That what we say matters. In fact, even in Matthew chapter 12, Jesus says that people will give an account for every careless word that they speak. So, again, a little of this depends on the culture in which we live and the words that our culture has defined as obscene or foolish or curse or cussing. And so I think the principle is this. Generally speaking, Christians should avoid using foul language. We should avoid using foul language. Now, to be completely honest, the reason I wouldn't say it's necessarily always sinful, because again, that foul language can change based on time and context, but also there could be some situations where maybe using a particular word or two might not actually be sinful. So perhaps, for example, you're sharing a story of something that happened to you, or something that happened where somebody used a certain word and it is most helpful to use the word that you overheard or that was maybe said to you. Maybe you're with a group of close Christian friends and you intentionally use a word that you wouldn't generally use, generally speaking, but maybe for a story or for something you're trying to share or to teach or to explain, a word that you generally wouldn't use might be helpful in that situation. And so again, here's just what I would say. Generally speaking, I would avoid curse, foolish, cussing language. I think generally speaking, it's unwise. And I think there certainly are situations where it is outright sinful. But I think to best live out the example of the New Testament, and best follow the way of Jesus, Christians should avoid, in most all circumstances, using false language, knowing that there might be an occasion for an exception, but that should be the exception, not the rule.